Hello, mi gente on air listeners and viewers and concerned citizens of the community. I got a great show for you tonight, and I'm excited because we have a historical show because we have two city council members that are Latino, and that has never happened, I don't think, in the history of the city of Saginaw. The city of Saginaw was incorporated in 1888, and this is the first time we have two Latinos on our city council. So join us in the room tonight if you've got comments or you have questions for my guests. Yes, Priscilla Garcia and Michael Flores, the council members, they're here with me tonight in Mi Gente on Air. So join us and leave a question if you can so that we can make the show you a part of it as well. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Mi Gente on Air on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Now, here is your host, Larry Rodarte.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Mi Gente on Air. I know I am blessed to have a listening audience and to have a voice online and on radio with Mi Gente on Air. I appreciate all the listeners and live streamers, and this month marked the 2-year anniversary of when WSGW management asked me to start Mi Gente on Air. And I was kind of floored when asked because I never set out to have a radio talk show. And for this market in Saginaw, in the Great Lakes Bay region, it really hadn't been done before with a Latino. It's quite rewarding, and I am aware of the responsibility to bring Latino awareness to the masses and the possibilities to amplify our voices, especially in these times that we live in today. So here we are, 2 years into Mi Gente on Air, and I just want to say thank you. And on today's show, I have some young trailblazers in the Saginaw community. They are individuals who stepped up to the plate, literally threw their names out in the ring and ran in political elections for Saginaw City Council. Flores and Garcia were on the ballots, and they won. Michael Flores won his seat in 2020, and Priscilla Garcia was victorious earlier this month on November 8th, and she became the first Latina ever elected to the city council. And in the history of Saginaw since its founding in 1888, Saginaw now has two Latinos sitting at the table representing all the citizens of Saginaw. They have a huge responsibility of setting policies, approving the budget, and so much more. We are on the move, Raza. So please help me welcome Councilman Michael Flores and Councilwoman Priscilla Garcia.
Hey, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you for that introduction.
Well, you know, I have to set this clear. When we talk about councilwoman, councilman, is those the right terms, or do we say council person, council? What do we? I need to know because I want to refer to you with respect.
I think in Saginaw, dealer's choice. So if you want to say council member or woman or man, whatever you want to do.
Well, you know, I'm really excited about this show tonight because I have been around long enough to know that we really haven't had too many Latinos who have been on the city council or on the board of education or have sit on boards in the last 50 years, believe it or not, where I can remember. But here today, we have two Latinos who have won seats. They've been elected to the City Council of Saginaw. So I want to introduce to my listeners, because many I don't think are familiar with Madam Councilwoman Priscilla Garcia. So please tell us a little bit about your background. I know it all. And who you are and where do you come from?
Hola, listeners. I'm Priscilla Garcia. I'm from Saginaw, Michigan, born and raised. This is my hometown. My background, 15 years of experience in social work, mostly with the elderly population, my seniors. And currently I have a master's in business where I am utilizing that in my Medicare specialty. Open enrollment ends December 7th. So I'm tying both of those two together, which I love both. So it works out well. And I'm excited to bring my experience to the council this next 4 years.
All right, all right. So the big question, what made you want to get a seat on Saginaw City Council?
Well, I come from a voting family, so politics has always been something that I've desired to be involved in. I've been on committees most of my life in high school, middle school. And so I just felt like we were missing out in the Latinas as well population that we need to be at these seats. There's no reason why we can't. And I decided to step out of my comfort zone last year. I brought it to Amos Zonio's attention during the Key Onda during September and just mentioned to it. And he said, let me know if you need any help, get started. So I was like, all right. And then it was brought to my attention in July of this year that there was a seat opening up. And I said, you know what? This is my time to shine. I need to get out of my comfort zone and step up to the plate and do it for my Latino community as well. Like I said, we need to be on these tables. There's no reason why we shouldn't be sitting there as well with everybody else.
Girl, I've never known you not to be uncomfortable, I should say. And I say that because Priscilla is a relative of mine and I've known her since she was a baby. And I grew up with her mother on 12th Street over in Saginaw. And I'm talking way back. That's how long, the connection is there. But she's part of the Diaz family of Saginaw, which I am as well. And we share great grandparents. But I also need to introduce Councilman Flores. Same question. Tell us about your background and what made you run for city council.
Hey, Saginaw. The same reason that Councilwoman Garcia had said is that, and this is a conversation that I had with you, Larry, when I was running, is that when I looked at the demographics of who was being represented on Saginaw City Council, there was a 100% chance that a man was going to be represented well. 100% chance a woman would be, 100% chance a African American would be, 100% chance an LGBTQ member was going to be, and there was an 8% chance that a Hispanic was going to be represented, and that was only because of my candidacy. And so, what's really special now, especially with Councilwoman Garcia's election, is that we've secured that type of representation for 4 years, and that's something that 2, 4, 6, 8 years ago, we didn't necessarily have any type of guarantee with. And so I think it's really, really special that we're able to prove that we can not only have a seat at the table, but move forward and help the city progress the way that it needs to.
Well, I remember when Daniel Sosa Jr. Was on the city council, when he won election the same night as Minnie Rosales on the Saginaw Board of Education. So we had 2 Latinos then on 2 different boards. And that was a really historical night. And I believe it was in 1998 or 96. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if we've ever had 2 Latinos on the city council at one time. Now, I know that Andrew Wendt was Latino, I think, his background, but I'm not sure. But Daniel Sosa Jr. and he, I think, at one time were on the city council briefly for at the same time. So if anybody's out there and can confirm that, please do so, because I couldn't find anything when I researched that. And, I really would like to know. But, historically, the city council today is being led by 2 women, the pro temp mayor and the mayor, Brenda Moore, and Annie Bench is the pro temp mayor. And so historically, that's a first, as well as Priscilla Garcia here, who is the first Latina on the city council. And that's a long time, 1888 from when it started, the city of Saginaw, all the way into 2022 to have the first Latina. So, we're moving forward, adelante, as I like to always say. And it's great. It's wonderful because it's really, to me, very exciting to have 2 Latino council persons on the city council at the same time. How many of you do remember when the first person of color sat on the board, or even the first mayor person of color? Henry Marsh, way back,
Way back.
So, I mean, there's quite a history. And I want to just ask Councilwoman Garcia, you received the 3rd highest amount of votes on November 8th. And they took the top 5, correct? and you received more votes than two of the incumbents running. What do you think contributed to your votes and your success?
I think just being well known in the community and what I do, my concerned citizens of the community, they really came out and showed their love and support. And I'm sure there would have been even more votes. A lot of my family don't reside in the Saginaw City. So if they did, I know we would have been off the charts a little bit higher, but I was really glad with the campaign. I didn't get to do as much, but I know what I need to do going forward for the next election. But I'm just happy with the outcome, like whatever you put out in the community goes and shows. So the love and support was definitely there. I did my own marketing on Facebook. I talked to Mr. Councilman Member Flores, and gave me some tips as well. So I appreciate him for that advice. But yeah, just the people had spoken, just well known in the community. So thank you for all my voters that went out and supported me.
So when Councilman Michael Flores here ran in 2020, Michael, I remember talking with you, and it was relatively a new scene for any Latino coming into the picture, and it had been a long time since we had anybody who threw their hat in the ring from the Latino community.
Yeah.
Do you think things have changed, say, from 2020 to 2022 when Priscilla has run, from the time you ran in a very, very contentious election at the time because of President Trump?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. Share a little bit about that with us.
Well, I think what we discovered, and this is just kind of my assessment from Councilwoman Garcia being elected, is that the Hispanics that live and reside and work and love the city of Saginaw have a pretty solid voting block. We both were elected above incumbents by over 5,000 votes. And our elections and campaigns were similar, where it was kind of name recognition. People in the community knew who we were. We ran on a really tight budget. I don't think I spent over $500. I paid Larry $300 back from printing stuff. But it's just like, we know that the Hispanic community is a very important voting block in the city of Saginaw. And that is something that is here to stay. It's going to grow. People that are looking towards 2024 that are Hispanic and want to be leaders, be aware that if you have that type of community connection, if you have the ability to present yourself as a leader and not just walk the walk, but talk the talk, right? Then you're going to have a real shot at getting on city council. And that was something that we didn't really know about in 2020. And we didn't really know about it in 2022. And to be very honest, when I saw four incumbents and I saw Councilwoman Garcia, I said, oh, Lord, please let her get on. But what Saginaw has proven to show us is that we are a significant voting block. We have a significant seat at the table, although sometimes we don't think we do. And that's very encouraging for people in the future that want to kind of come to city council.
Yes. And, you talk about being known in the community. Now, Priscilla Garcia here really has made an impact with her microphone. I want you to show that. I opened up the live stream with this because she kind of had a brand that she was promoting out there of concerned citizens of the community. And I got that right without actually looking at it. But tell us a little bit about that, Priscilla, because that played a big part in your success.
Yeah, so I just like to have a good time. I don't like to be going by rules. I'm a freelance. I've always liked the media, being out on TV as long as I can remember. And I was like, I'm going to get me a microphone. And this one was really nice. Got it off of Amazon for the player price, like $10. And I would do live weather reports because I got a lot of family out of state and they don't get to see all the beautiful snow like we do. So I'd do live weather reports. I'd go investigate. And people were like, you need to go work for TV5 and ABC12. And I'm like, no, I like to do my own thing. I want to do my own story. And I just think people took a love into it. I had so many people say, I love what you're doing. I'm over here cracking up. Keep doing what you're doing, And then with the pandemic, just to get everybody happy, laughing, I do the Easter bunny. I went viral for that, for falling off of somebody's porch, I think it was. I do the Grinch. So I just like to have a good time and, give back to my community. So it's all about having fun. And this microphone right here, I say microwave, this microphone right here has taken me places. It was on the parade with me Saturday for the Saginaw City.
Yeah, it was.
And back in 1998, Priscilla Garcia was part of a group that we had called Canta Conmigo with Club Diferencia. It was a group of high school students that was involved with Mi Gente, and we got them together and we produced a show. It was called Canta Conmigo after the theme song, and we danced and we introduced videos. And I think that was your first exposure in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 25 years now.
Yeah.
But that was exciting, wasn't it, for you?
Right,
And we had, it was great exposure that we were on public access TV.
Yeah.
Back then, that was the plug. There was no internet, if you believe it or not. There was no internet in our lives. But so it's been quite a road to see Priscilla where she has been and where she's going. And one of the main things that I think I noticed in this election in 2022 was that on every station you tune into, whether it was Fox or CNN or most of the news programs, there was a significant mentioning of the Latino vote. They talked about it on every station. Some of the big races were determined. They were waiting for that, the outcome of the Latino vote. And I think it really made a difference in the election, and we now have a force to be reckoned with political candidates. I want to know what your take is from both of you in regard to that. Michael?
Yeah, I think it's here to stay, like I said before, and that the more people that we have running that are strong Latino leaders, the more chance that we have the ability to get on. I think that I had conversations with different Hispanic leaders running up to the election, and I said, I want 3 people to run. I think there's 4 seats open. I'd like 3 people to run. And the conversation back and forth was like, well, that's going to split the vote. Traditionally, yeah, if you're in a primary 1 versus 1, that would be the case. But because there's 4 open seats, I think what we've proven, again, is that we have a voting block that's significant that trumps current incumbents that have their own voting block. And that's what, in terms of, analyzing the numbers as a political science student, that's what that looks like to me. And that's happening all across the nation. It's significant. I think that our job as Hispanic and Latino leaders is to find other leaders that are willing to, like Councilwoman Garcia had said, become vulnerable, step up, come to the plate, and decide that they want to take charge of the city, because the opportunity is there.
Yes. Priscilla?
Yeah, I know for firsthand, working with the Latino population, it's a trust thing. So if they see you out there as a leader, they're going to trust you to do the right thing. As far as working in social work, I've been with seniors and they wouldn't go nobody else. And they're like, I'm not going to come get my commodities. I'm like, why? Because you're not there. I'm like, just because I'm not there, you need it. But they trusted me and they knew that I would guide them the right direction. So I think just with elections, the same thing, that we're seeing these Latinos running and we need to support them. And so they're going to trust them to do the right thing. So they're voting for them,
Yeah. Councilman Flores, it's been 2 years now that pretty much you've been on the council. Do you, now that you've kind of got those 2 years of experience under your belt, is it a little bit easier in 2022 than it was in 2021?
No. No. It's way harder.
It's way harder, really?
Because I told my dad this earlier today when I was talking with him, like especially M Live is like in Bridge. It's like he's the lone person that says the word lone keeps coming up. And so when you have that kind of cemented into your reputation, especially among city council members, like it doesn't get much easier. It gets much harder, actually. And it's an identity it's hard to continue to facilitate, I think, for me.
Yeah. And
it's much easier to say yes.
Yeah.
To be honest, for real.
Well, we're going to talk about the ARPA funding in a little bit, but I want to ask Priscilla, since you're swearing in, it's been what, a month now? Not even.
Not even. Going on.
How has it been for you as the newbie coming into the room and in the city council?
Yeah, what's
Well, yeah. The night I won election, my phone was blowing up.
that? Yeah.
The next day it was blowing up, and this last week with the meetings and everything, it's blowing up, and
Mhm.
news reporters and this and then that's fine. I love to be in the spotlight, as you can tell. But yeah, it's just I'm taking everything in. I know there's a lot of money coming into the pot here that we have to spend in a short period of time now, and so I'm just trying to absorb everything and monitor it and see, what needs to be done, catching up, because I know I'm behind, of course, going in, being the new kid on the block, but everybody on the council has treated me with open arms. I can't say that nobody has not been nice, and just everybody that's been very helpful, and I appreciate it, especially with everything being so new. But I find it really interesting hearing everybody, and I'm excited for these 4 years, and I know they'll probably fly by fast.
Mhm.
Well, with the question that I asked Michael, about from 2021, 2022, what would you have as far as advice to Priscilla? Because I heard you when we were coming into the studio here, I mean, they were nonstop. Jonathan, weren't they? They were nonstop. I couldn't even get any recommendations on how we were going to run the show. So we're really going in blindly here. But what would you give her as far as, giving her a recommendation as a city council person going forward?
I think at this point she can give me recommendations. They're treating her nicer than they treated me. So if you got anything, let me know. But overall, I think that the guiding light is always why you decided to get into the fight and at the table. So if that continues to guide you, small d democratic process and representation's a real thing. And this is the way that I envision things for the city of Saginaw. If we got all 45,000 of us into a room, would we all just be like, yeah, that's a good idea?
Right.
No, we wouldn't. And because we are a diverse group of people, we are a diverse city, and we have different points of view. And so again, that's why I guess I don't understand the loan thing, because there's so many different people that have so many different situations and social economic income and all this stuff. So, if you do have any advice for me, great. But I think you kind of have a really good idea of what you're doing. You continue to do that.
Thank you.
Nicely said. Nicely said. So Councilwoman Garcia and I, like I said, we share ancestors and come from a huge family here in Saginaw. And in 1928, our great-grandparents came to Saginaw as immigrants via a box train. And I want you to tell me, what do you think great-grandma Cecilia would have thought to know that a descendant of hers would be on the Saginaw City Council?
I think they would be very proud of me from where we came, our roots and our upbringing, and the values that we were brought upon. And I know they would be very proud of me. I'm taking on this role, but out of everybody in the family, I'm sure they would have not expected it from me, so yeah.
That's true. And what has your grandmother, Mary Castañeda, my cello, what has she said in regard to all this?
She's so proud of me. She came and got to see me sworn in, her and my grandpa. My grandma's 89 and my grandpa's 92. So it was very nice that they were there with me to see one of their first great-grandchildren to make history in the city of Saginaw. So it meant a lot for them to be there and to represent my Garcia name. My grandpa comes from Monterrey, Mexico. So it really means a lot to carry on the last name with the legacy.
And I would have loved to have been there too. Because, like I said, I grew up with her mother on 12th Street, and boy, did we have fun back in those days in the 70s, 60s, the late 60s and the 70s. And she was known as the hula hoop queen on 12th Street.
Whoa.
And her name was Elizabeth Castañeda Garcia. And so I had to bring that up, Liz. Sorry. But anyways, we're going to come back into the show, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty with the ARPA funding and what happened at the 10th meeting at City Council last night. And that's part of, being on the City Council. So we're going to come back with Councilman Michael Flores and Councilwoman Priscilla Garcia here on Mi Gente on Air. No te vayas.
You're listening to Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
We got a good solid number in the room watching, and I don't see too many comments, but I do see David Guevara, your cousin out in San Diego, California, says congratulations to the new city councilwoman Priscilla from cousin David. So you got fans in the family. And Nancy Rodarte Rodriguez is saying being real. You're out there being real. That's your godmother. Yes.
Godmother. Thank you, godmother.
So we encourage anybody out there, if you got a question for either of the council persons on Mi Gente on Air tonight, or if you just want to make a comment, please do, so that we can, have you as part of the show, because that's what Mi Gente on Air is about, my people on air. And we have that voice. And just like on the city council, they have a voice. And that's what this show is about. And that's why we're celebrating. That's why we opened up with the music of Selena, because we, as Tejanos here in Saginaw, we love Selena, right? And so we're going to go back into the show, and we're going to talk a little bit business about the ARPA funding with the city council persons here on Mi Gente on Air.
This is Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
Welcome back, Mi Gente. Thank you so much for being with me tonight here as we celebrate so much in our community as we move forward as Latinos, as part of the Great Lakes Bay region. We're celebrating 2-year anniversary of Mi Gente on Air, that I've been on this show. And we're also celebrating having 2 Latinos on the Saginaw City Council, as well as the first Latina on the City Council of Saginaw. So a lot to celebrate. And, we're celebrating so much more, and celebrating life in general, because, tomorrow's never promised. And so I'm glad that I have you both here tonight. I want to thank you both for coming in. We have Councilman Michael Flores and Councilwoman Priscilla Garcia, and we're going to talk about the ARPA funding. And I know that for the most part, we've been talking a little bit about this, and I had Michael on the show before, Councilman Flores. Can you tell us a little bit about, just a snippet of what the ARPA funding is, just for those who may not actually understand what we're talking about?
Yeah, so it's the ARPA stands for the American Rescue Plan Act, and this was a response to COVID. It was probably the first big piece of legislation that President Biden had put through. If you think about Obamacare and the importance of the legacy of President Obama, think about this as kind of a companion piece. Prior to this, there was a CARES Act, which also had to do with COVID response. But this was kind of a once in a multi-generational, the intent was to be something close to the New Deal that FDR had put through during his presidency. And Saginaw was second only to Detroit for the amount of money per capita, with $52 million. Flint got more millions, but they have more folks. And this is at a time where Saginaw has reduced from a metropolitan area to something under 50,000 residents. So it's really, really, really a big deal. And the interest from the community has been there. We have over 300 applications. And so it's always been a really big deal.
Do you think that, say in other communities such as Bay City, who has already allocated most of their funding, did they have an interest from the community like Saginaw has?
No.
Yeah,
they didn't.
I didn't think so.
Because they didn't get that much money, and because they're more wealthy. And, we have a poverty problem, plain and simple. There are a third of us that are in poverty. And there are people that have been in the city, have hopes and aspirations and dreams, and had saw this as an opportunity to be able to help their city, but also to create something that they think is going to have be their legacy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Councilwoman Garcia, what was your experience last night? Because as we mentioned, it was a little tense. And I just, as somebody coming in, and this is relatively new to you, what was your take on it?
Anytime money's involved, it's going to get intense.
Mhm.
We're just wanting to get the money out in a timely fashion. We don't want to lose that funding. So we want to make sure that we're making the correct decisions for the city, because this is a big amount of money that we're going to be pushing out there in the community. And at the end of the day, we, the 9 council members, had that responsibility to take on, and we're not going to make everybody happy. That's just how it is. But yeah, it was neat seeing everything kind of falling in place. And like I said, with my past experience with the CBSG funds as well, kind of getting a little bit of understanding. But I do think that we do need timelines for the community, so that way they can know what's going on. Just like starting December 3rd, we're going to start giving out the furnace applications. So that's nice because there's a timeline. People know when they can come, when they need to apply. And I think we need something set in place like that going forward with this amount of money. Don't know how much time we got, but we need something so that way there's not so much confusion. And I think that's the main thing last night, was the confusion of how the money's going to be spent, the timeline, how we are getting these proposals out to people. And so definitely need more structure.
Well, other than COVID and the effects of the pandemic, what are the biggest challenges you'd say facing Saginaw, and what are the greatest strengths? Either of you.
One with the timeline, it has to be spent by 2025. That is just a fact. So we have a really set timeline on what's able to be spent. Now, if we allocate money to somebody, and this is something we talked about in the council before, if we give the money to somebody, do they have to spend it by 2025? So the allocation that went to the behavioral health facility, they're not going to build that facility by 2025. We just allocate that money, and then they're able to spend it until they get that project done. So timelines are important, yet we have up until 2025 to fully flesh that out. So we're not really racing to spend this money. Again, there's many people in line. When it comes down to I'm sorry, what was the other question?
Well, we're talking about the greatest strengths of Saginaw.
Oh, the greatest strength is that there's community involvement. One of the requirements of this piece of legislation is that there is community involvement. And that could be done in one of two ways. That could either be done on a surface level, and like, hey, we're going to have a meeting, and we're going to hold these meetings, and we're going to have a committee, and we're going to get community buy-in. But if we're not listening to the people that are applying for these funds, and we're giving it traditionally to the people that always got the money, then that's actually just kind of a con job. And so that's why it was a little bit contentious yesterday, is because we've asked many, 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 many people for what their thoughts and ideas are. And we got many, many, many responses. But what we are shifting towards, and if you look at my votes, and I've been very consistent on this, we are going towards a direction that we have traditionally gone. And again, for people that don't know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting the different results. So we just did it again last night. And so now, not only do we have an issue of putting a lot of money in the hands of a few amount of people, but we also have a disillusioned public that is either angry or not going to even vote. So when we're talking about voting numbers, they'll be like, well, you know what? None of them are any good. I'm staying home. So it dissolves and dilutes democracy the way that we're doing this. And it also undermines the entire language that was in the American Rescue Plan Act. Because if you look it up, equity is in that bill more than any other word. So this idea that, this millionaire decides to come and ask for millions of dollars, that's not equitable. That is not fair. When other people came to ask for funds that would be able to facilitate the same amount of help that we don't even, and we got a news report today that said they don't even know if they have all the other money secured from all the other people they're trying to get these funds from. So, I stand by my vote. I would definitely to say we need to continue to research the information that we've been given. I had 28 different health proposals. Some of them were from the city. I was just going to allocate from lost revenue. Some of them are from, people that have been working a long time. NAACP, MAC. They all had stuff on the table, but we don't talk about that kind of stuff because we're so centered on this one thing.
So how do we get around that? And how do you view your role as an individual on this governing body?
What's sad to me is we don't get around it. We just do what we are on a track that is, for me, I have one vote, is insurmountable, and we're just continuing down that track. And, I think that everybody hopefully did their research. And the only way to really change things is what the Hispanic and Latino community has been doing for these past 2 elections. Invite new people onto the table. There are some people that I've had conversations with and said, you know what? George Washington quit after 8 years. That's just something that I'll always go by, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when you have people that are just like, I'm voting yes because I'm voting yes because I'm voting yes because I can, and don't really give it to the community, then it's not really a democratic process. So sorry to get so charged up about it, but I feel really strongly about it. And I've had, separate conversations with people, and people have lied to me. People that voted yesterday lied and said that the reason that they were interested in public health was for parks. And then all of a sudden we get this $5 million thing that we saw coming a long time ago. But, it's just too much for me.
Wow. Well, that's the advantage of, the ARPA conversation, is that it has brought the community out and involved the council in a way, that we haven't typically seen in the past. And in Councilwoman Garcia, let me hold your hand, because this is really something that, you're really new to, and I want to shake your hand because, I think for the most part, community members would say, wow, I'm not getting involved in that. But you threw your hat in the ring, and now you're faced with being one of the 9 on the city council that is going to, help make these decisions, set policies, etc. What is your take on all of this?
Yeah, people are like, the city of Saginaw is getting all these ARPA dollars. Do you know what you're getting into? I'm a determined woman, and I'm going to do more research, going in. I've just got agenda you get, and trying to figure everything out, get feedback from different council members. But me personally, I like to do my own research. Like I said, I'm not a follower, I'm a leader, and I do what's best for the community, for myself. And I'm going to look at everything. Like I said, I just got so much information at one time, so it is a little overwhelming. But I do take this seriously, because that is a lot of money, and it's going to affect a lot of people for a long time. Regardless when the money has to be spent, we want to make sure that we make the correct choices for our city, to look back and say, did I do the right thing? I don't want to have to question myself 10 years down the road. Should we have done that community bill? Should we have done this? I want to be certain that I know that I did the right thing when I walk away from that table.
Yeah. Well, it definitely is something monumental, I think. And I want to ask Councilman Flores, has the process of the ARPA funding, has that disillusioned you as a council person that first came in just 2 years ago, and has your mindset changed from, say, that guy who said, you know what, I want to make a difference in the city of Saginaw? And how does this affect potential candidates in the future?
I don't think it does at all. You bring up a good point that Councilwoman Garcia was the only person to know what she was coming into, because when we all ran, we were talking about the tax cap and how we can lift that up, and then hopefully secure some funds so we could do some good. And then all of a sudden we get this placed in our lap. So that was, something that we never even dreamed of. And it hasn't. I go into every single city council meeting with low expectations of what I'm able to move. And I talked about this last night. I am one vote. And there are many, and I was talking with my dad about it before I came here. He's like, I just can't imagine that everybody, same thing that goes back to that room of 45,000 in Saginaw. I can't imagine that everybody's yes vote except for you. If they really did their research and really looked at everything, why are they all yeses? That is going towards something that time and time again with ARPA has proven to be false. Originally, my thing was to give a premium pay to essential care workers. They had decided to reduce that significantly. And then not only that, exclude people that in the final rules were deemed essential care workers. And they did that without caring about the fact that these are the people that kept our city running. And so again, I'll continue to stand by my votes because I think, like I talked about last night, I'm looking at it in terms of long-term history. That's a very shallow comfort for knowing that this is going to affect thousands and thousands of people for years and years and years. Is it upsetting? Absolutely. I go back to my house after every meeting and be like, man, I don't know.
And that's kind of like where I was going with that question. But you know what? I need to stop the conversation because I want to make sure it's clarified to everybody out there. What is exactly, happening in terms of the money? Because we've got a comment on here where they're saying, who stands to get any money and how do you choose who gets the money? He says a lot of everyday people don't understand this talk and what you're talking about. So if we can just kind of clarify that in a way, and I think you did a great explanation earlier, but is there something that we can say here tonight on this program that can make it a little bit easier for people to understand exactly what we're talking about?
ARPA's put into 4 buckets. It's lost revenue. So say the city wasn't really functioning the way it used to. People aren't getting tickets. People aren't, are behind on their bills. And that's lost revenue coming into the city. So the city had this on their agenda from the beginning that they wanted half of the money and they got it. So that's one. The second would be water and technological infrastructure. So if there's any issues with water, but that was before IIJA. And so now we know that we're getting different money for infrastructure. So we don't really need to deal with that. And then technological, I think cybersecurity is something we need to talk about. Absolutely. And there are proposals from the city. Third would be the premium pay that I talked about. And then fourth would be the public health issue that we're dealing with. And that kind of encompasses nonprofits, the behavioral health thing, a lot. So,
and wasn't that part of the discussion last night with the health?
But what we've done is we've created a committee that was, comprised of 15 people, a lot of that have been working hard and long in the city to see different changes happen. What that does is it incentivizes people to get the money. And like Councilwoman Garcia said, more money, more problems. And that's kind of what happened. Again, I voted against the committee because I already saw that kind of coming.
Well, I didn't say that. Biggie said that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, paraphrase. But so now we have the committee. They do the report, like Councilman Copeland said, and I don't want to quote him, but that information was not as adequate as we needed to be able to make decisions. So now we need the metrics. So the whole process, what we really saw last night is a public breakdown and very transparent acknowledgement that the process that we had invested in had not worked. And that now we are asking, I think Council or Mayor Pro Tem Bench had asked for Guidehouse, which again, we contracted for $800,000.
And that's Guidehouse.
That's Guidehouse. That's the first thing that we did. And if you look at their contract, it's 14 pages long. They needed to be doing this stuff before anyway. And they needed to give us additional information on where overlap would be. Now we're asking them to spend more of the money that we already allocated towards them. And we've been reassured that they're not going to spend the whole $800,000. Don't worry about it. And then when I bring them up and ask questions, they're just like, they're looking at me like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm reading from their contract. So like, again, I voted against that, but this is the hard lesson that I think we all need to learn on council. We had been elected by thousands of people to make hard decisions. And if we're not comfortable with doing that, we don't belong there. And if we are, then our vote matters. And I can only speak for myself. I have a full-time job. My son's out there in the lobby. I'm a full-time dad. I still look through all the proposals. Did they give you every application you need?
They just gave me a packet. I don't know.
Did you get all the proposals that you need?
No,
Well,
I
then
don't
that's what I'm
think so.
talking about. We
If
are
I don't
relying
have the tools, I can't
exactly, and we are relying
do
on
my job.
people that I don't have a lot of confidence in. So I'll give you the full Excel sheet, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
Well-
it's kind of a mess, and I think that's very apparent. So it's not like a secret that
it's
I'm
a lot of
giving away.
confusion. It seems like.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you heard it here on Mi Gente on Air tonight here. And this is, like I said, a celebratory show. So let's move
Yeah, for sure.
on to where we're talking about.
Positive.
It is positive.
Well, you know,
Those are positive things.
Right. It is.
as council persons, do you feel that your 10 years will bring awareness and engagement more with Latinos in the community, and you know, for them to strive for board seats or possibly political offices?
Most definitely. I know the first night they called me Congresswoman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
So I
cool.
was like, oh, okay, well, I'll claim it, you know. Even when I went to go cast my vote for myself, there was a Latino woman and she told me, I said, I just cast my vote for myself, proud moment. And she goes, well, you know, mija, you don't get it. You can always try again. She goes, but we do need young people involved. And I said, don't worry. If I don't get it, I'll be back again. I said, I'm a determined woman. I have a young teenage mom, and I've got this far with a master's. So I know the struggles, and you know, we do need to be at these tables. And if I can give any advice out there, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, because you don't know what you're missing out on until you actually try. You can always come for me for support or advice, because I'm always willing to help the younger generation, especially knowing what I've been through. So
Nicely said.
Yeah, that's
Michael,
really cool.
what's your take?
I've been called, I think, congressman. I'm not sure what I've been called, but a
Lone
lot of
Ranger.
things. Yeah, lone wolf or whatever. I think what Councilwoman Garcia and I are doing is going to have an impact on our community. And when I say our community, I mean the Latino community. I think when it comes down to next election, that there's going to be more people that want to be involved. And this is not because we are in cahoots. I know that there's some people that were concerned. They're like, oh, you know,
concerned citizens.
well, yeah, concerned citizens of the
Send
community.
them my way.
They're like, oh, well, you know, now they're Mexican. What's that mean? And really, I do take this home sometimes, that and this is what's very comforting for you to be on there, that when I was on there alone, I didn't know if I was making a fool of us, or, you know what I mean? Like when you feel like you're the only person standing up, I was like, are they contributing just to race? Or is it just an individual thing?
Now you're seated next to me.
And
so
now
you act a
we're
fool
seated,
on me, right?
and that's really cool. And I think what the most important and really cool thing is like when you are seated, because I've done this with George for 2 years, you can like see people grow, and you could see them act in motion, right? And so I'm hoping that because we're seated next to each other, that there's going to be even more Latinos on in 2024. I really do. That would be like all worth it.
Yeah, I've had younger people already reach out to me and
That's
say,
awesome.
I want to, but I don't know what I need to do, you know, so I'm there. I'm ready to guide them.
Yeah, you got
Definitely.
the whole process and talk down. That's the one thing I helped her out with, was like, how do you do the nomination forms? I'm like, well, yeah, like a little bit. But
Right.
that was cool.
You know, not everyone can be on or run for city council. How would you recommend people be more involved if they want to make a difference?
Just getting involved in their community, letting people know who they are. I've done Arson Watch for the last couple years. I've done Toys for Tots the last couple years.
Christmas with Angels
for 6 years, and I'm always involved in St. Joe's Festival every year. So I'm out in the community, so I'm doing it. It's not just saying, hey, vote for me. I'm actually doing the work.
Well, you know, I have had a blast here tonight talking with you. I've been excited. Just like on November 8th, I went in at 7:45 to vote over there at Sassa. That's my precinct.
Me too.
And I was really excited to go in there because I knew Priscilla's name was on the ballot.
Yeah.
And I had just left Aunt Della's house, and cousin Anno from Galveston was there, and we were visiting. I said, "Oh, I only got 15 minutes. Should I go or not?" And they all said, go, vote for Priscilla. And so that was what I did. And I was very, it was very a heartfelt moment for me to see your name, because like I said, I've known you since you were a child, a baby. I held you and your legs were like spaghetti. Do you remember that story? And so, I'm really happy to have you both, and congratulations on your win. Michael, congratulations for being you, because you know what? You are that voice that we need. Like you said, not everybody can just say yes, 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 and just go along with the flow. You are that lone wolf, and you should be proud of that. That's all I could say. So
I appreciate
thank you, everybody, for joining me here tonight. We had a great show, and I am so thrilled to be able to go on going into our third year with Mi Gente on air, and having that voice at the table, just like we now have on the city council. So congratulations, everybody.
Si se puede.
Si se puede. Yes, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week here on Mi Gente on air.
About to grub.
So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We have a few comments. Elvis Mackel says congratulations and keep pushing. That's a great comment from Elvis. We've also got Ramon Rodriguez, who says congratulations, Priscilla. Larry Campbell says, I would like to see council at neighborhood meetings. And he says, great dialogue, very good dialogue tonight. And Nancy Rodarte Rodriguez, my sister, says, more power to you. God bless. And Ramiro and Cristina Castillo says, congratulations. So there's a lot of congratulatory messages. I think the community has been moved. We are, moving that pendulum, and it's in the right direction. So thank you, everybody, for being with us here tonight. Great show. And if you've got any suggestions for future shows, or even if you council members have any suggestions as well, I'm more than willing to welcome those suggestions, because sometimes it's tough. It's tough to figure out a schedule or whatever. I know I have the best producer in town, Jonathan Dent, and he helps me so much. And let's give props to Jonathan out there. Jonathan,
I can't give you my microphone, Jonathan.
I try.
and Jonathan goes to city council members. You guys are familiar with him. So what is your take on all this?
I think that it's very clear that we're sitting with two people who have a lot of love for the Saginaw community, and every push that you make, it's coming from a place of wanting to make your community better. And I think that that's the kind of thing that's the kind of person that needs to be on council, is someone who loves their community enough to have tough discussions and not shy away from it. And I really appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pay you that 20 whenever.
Right.
Jonathan, you're going to go far. You are going to go far in life.
You want me to sign your baby,
Checks in the mail.
All right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much again. And we'll see you next week here on Mi Gente on Air. Hasta luego.
Bye, everybody.